Well, I had one.
You get to your email and then that password. Also email.
I think it's saying.
Give you the password. And the password is last time.
It may be saved.
Maybe same with an explanation.
Yelling part of this or
Mine wasn't saved.
for both?
See, and then Evo,
Just the,
once he does it.
Yeah, it finally did it.
Is he ready?
No, hold on one
Yeah,
second.
1 minute.
Just tell him to hurry up.
It should be the same one you had. And then I think you just put explanation, because that's what he did with mine.
Waiting for him. He had all day to be.
Yeah.
Huh? It'd be a woman's house at 9
There we
o'clock
go.
in the morning.
Can y'all see and hear me just fine?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Please speak into
Are
the
you
mic.
ready?
We hear and see you.
Yes, I'm ready.
Dylan, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Jared, you ready?
Recording in progress.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Everybody over on the left ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's get started with our calling to order the special meeting of the City of Mary Esther Local Planning Agency, 18 May 2026 at 5:45. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag. To the republic. Nation. Indivisible. Justice.
Okay, City Clerk, could you give a roll call of the LPA?
Board Member Sutton,
Present.
Board Member Coxwell,
Here.
Board Member Lawson,
Present.
Board Member Carter,
Here.
Board Member Oder.
Present.
You have a
Thank you. Thank you. Number 5, administration of the oath to those persons testifying. So if you're trying to testify or talk, or you think you might talk, it ain't gonna hurt to take the oath. Do they need to stand or not?
They just need to raise their right hand.
Yeah, raise your right hand. And Dylan, you got it? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, so under the penalty of perjury, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item number 6 is items consideration. This is 6.1. It's a variance for 22 Misty Water Lane. Are you going to start off? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Anybody who's going to talk, by the way, please, I'm going to remind you to speak into the microphone and state your name and address and organization. Does it work?
Testing.
It does work.
It does. Okay.
All right. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the local planning agency. For the record, my name is Tyler Reed, Community Development Director. Tonight, we present the subject property located at 22 Misty Water Lane, zoned R1, single-family residential, and situated along Santa Rosa Sound. The owners, Mr. Dahir, hereinafter owners, submitted a variance application on April 24th, 2026. The application requests approval of a dimensional variance to allow a rear yard setback of approximately 17 feet along the eastern lot line, where the Land Development Code requires a minimum of 20 feet pursuant to section 7.15.01 and 21-52. The certified foundation survey confirms that a portion of the owner's existing structure encroaches approximately 3 feet into the required rear yard setback, representing a 15% reduction from the required 20-foot rear yard setback. The subject property is subject to additional development constraints under Article 11 of the Land Development Code due to its location on Santa Rosa Sound. The lot is oriented parallel to Misty Water Lane, which creates a unique spatial relationship between the front and rear yard designations and contributes to the encroachment conditions documented in the survey. For approval of a dimensional variance, the local planning agency must find that the application satisfies the applicable criteria under the Land Development Code. Staff has evaluated the request against the following standards. The encroachment document documented in the certified foundation survey results from site-specific conditions unique to the subject property. The property's orientation parallel to Missy Water Lane, combined with the coastal development constraints applicable under Article 11 to its location on the Santa Rosa Sound, creates a configuration that is uncommon among standard residential lots in the R1 zoning district. In addition, the adjacent property has an existing driveway encroaching onto the subject property, further constraining the site. The coastal overlay provisions of Article 11 pose additional restrictions on development in the vicinity of Santa Rosa Sound. These constraints distinguish the property from inland R1 sites or lots and subject to coastal development limitations. There is no evidence in the record that the owners directed, authorized, or were aware of the setback encroachment before construction and inspection of the property with the submittal of the foundation survey. However, an encroachment was likely due to the unique site constraints listed above, which were not of the owner's making. Additionally, upon obtaining the foundation survey and becoming aware of the full extent of the encroachment, the owners did not attempt to conceal the violation or continue the violation. They promptly initiated the variance process, and staff used this good faith disclosure and compliance effort as a mitigating factor. Approval of the requested variance will not confer upon the owners any special privilege denied to other lands, buildings, or structures in the same R1 zoning district. The variance is narrowly tailored to address a specific surveyed encroachment of approximately 3 feet along the eastern lot line arising from site conditions unique to this property. It does not permit any use not otherwise allowed in the R1 district. Other property owners in the R1 district who can demonstrate comparably unique site-specific constraints would be equally entitled to seek after the fact variance relief under the same standards. The requested relief is therefore consistent with the equitable application of the variance process and does not confer an advantage unavailable to similarly situated owners. Requiring strict compliance would compel the demolition and removal of portions of the existing structure. This result is disproportionate to the nature of the encroachment, 3 feet, and would impose a significant economic burden, including demolition costs, structural remediation, and resulting decrease in property value without any commensurate benefit to public health, safety, or welfare. Additionally, such demolition would generate prolonged construction noise, vibration, dust, and debris, unnecessarily burdening the surrounding neighborhood. The requested variance is the minimum relief necessary to allow the continued reasonable use of the subject property without demolition or the existing improvements. The owners seek only an approximate 3-foot reduction to the rear yard setback from 20 feet to approximately 17 feet, which corresponds precisely to the encroachment documented in the certified foundation survey. No additional relief beyond that survey establishes is requested. The owners have not sought a broader or more permissive setback than necessary. The request is limited to in scope to the as-built condition of the existing structure as verified by a professional survey. No new conditions or expansion is proposed. Section 7.14.08 of the Land Development Code establishes the purposes of required yards, including ensuring adequate light, air circulation, and separation between structures. Staff finds that a 17-foot rear yard setback continues to serve these purposes in a meaningful way. The 3-foot reduction from the required setback is minimal and does not meaningfully alter the light, air, or separation conditions along the eastern lot line. The encroachment has not generated complaints from adjacent property owners and has not been identified as contributing to any nuisance, safety hazard, or adverse neighborhood condition. Approval of the variance will not alter the physical relationship between the subject structure and adjacent properties, as encroachment already exists. The grant of relief formalizes and documents an existing condition rather than creating a new one. Based on the foregoing analysis, staff finds that the application satisfies all 6 required variance criteria and recommends that the local planning agency recommend approval to the City Council the the fact rear yard setback variance. And this concludes my presentation. And I believe the applicant is here as well to answer any questions.
Did the applicant? Yes. Got a question for you. And you can just, you got the lot. I went over there to look at it today, and it is a huge house, and it's, you have all these problems with the property. I mean, the wetland, everything else, and the driveway that you're sharing. Why do you want to live there? I mean, I understand Mary Esther, and there's property on the south side of Mary Esther where you can have the whole house, a mansion, on the hill. That's for sale. I just can't figure out why a person with your statute would want to live in a little box like that with all the problems that lot has. I mean, this lot's been around for a long time. I know that. Okay. Okay. I mean, point of order. Had to get that. I know, board always supposed to talk. That was a secret conversation between you and me, so we're not going up. I don't, yeah, that's not part of this thing. Does anybody have any,
I do.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. We got to hear from a lawyer now?
He's speaking.
So
No, I'll just be here to, I'm happy to give a presentation, Mayor, or I'm happy to answer questions.
You want to hear him?
However, your honorable mayor and council members prefer to handle it, we're here to accommodate. So,
I have some questions.
So you want to hear his presentation?
Point of order too, real quick, please introduce yourself.
Oh,
it-
I'm sorry.
thank
Trey
you.
Goodwin, representative for,
Trey Goodwin is counsel for the property owner, Steve Daher and his wife Ozzy. My address is 315 East Hollywood Boulevard, Suite 2, Mary Esther, Florida.
Thank you.
Okay. How long's your presentation?
Very brief, and I'm happy to simply answer questions.
Okay,
I've
why don't we-
also brought with me an expert planner,
Okay.
Charles Gautier, and he is here. He actually has submitted to Mr. Dillon a few slides, just 3, that would present a visual. He'd be happy to walk through those if the council would find that it would be helpful or instructive.
Does the council wish to see the slides?
The LPA.
LPA?
Oh, the
wish to see
LPA.
slides?
and,
Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Our
We
due
would like to
diligence.
do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
and Chairman Stein too, typically the procedure would be staff would provide a presentation, and then the applicant would have the opportunity, and then we would have questions. And so if you all are prepared to do that, that would be the
So we have
typical
a
procedure.
presentation too by the applicant.
Correct.
Thank you, Mayor. And certainly we'll keep this as brief as possible. I want to say, Mr. Reed did a very good job summarizing the situation and where we stand. But I just want, from the applicant standpoint, I just want to come back to a couple issues and point out why we're here. Again, this is really a very unique parcel of property. I think, Mayor, as you have observed, and other LPA members / council members that may be familiar with this piece of property as well. Of course, it's at the end of Misty Water Lane, which is a boat ramp that your city owns and operates. And this parcel is unique. Primarily, it's a unique piece of land because it has 2 things that most parcels in Mary Esther don't have. And it's got, a unique characteristic that even most waterfront parcels in Mary Esther don't have. And that is that it's got its frontage on the Sound, and that property line is perpendicular to a road / boat ramp that runs its entire western boundary, and they're perpendicular. So for most waterfront lots, your public street is opposite your water. But in this case, they're perpendicular. And a search of your city maps revealed that I believe this to be the only undeveloped lot in the city that has that same characteristic. There are other lots that are similar. In fact, the one directly across the boat ramp, but it of course is developed and has a home on it. So it's really the uniqueness of the land that presents the problem and creates a constraint on this particular lot. Now, on the waterward side, you've got You've got some jurisdictional wetland issues that have to be addressed. It's also in a special flood hazard area. So this will have to be a home that's built on pilings, which already creates, an intense additional challenge for typical R1 single-family residential use. But here, of course, as staff has pointed out, we're asking for a variance related to the eastern boundary line. And when we show the aerials, I think it'll become really clear what we're asking and why we're asking it. So keep in mind, because of the wetlands and because of your coastal protection zones, right? So you've got a 100-foot setback from the water. It pushes the buildable area of this lot to the north. And this property has an additional characteristic that's a little bit unlike other properties. Many properties like this share a boundary with private property on two sides, and this one does as well. But those boundary lines are also perpendicular to one another, just like the water and the road boundaries. And again, that is a very unusual circumstance. And I would say that that's not the standard circumstance that your comprehensive plan and land development code anticipated in creating the standards for property. And of course, you have these 6 elements that are in your code to consider for variance. And I think staff went through and really touched on every single one of those elements. And I'll just go through them very quickly, but I want to save some time for Mr. Gauthier to come up. You've got your first element, the peculiarity. I just talked about what is peculiar about this land with the ramp and the water and the perpendicular boundary issues. The special condition and what caused it. And again, the focus here is the special condition of the land as it was when, before anything was built, before a pile was sunk, this land already had special constraints and circumstances that made it a unique, almost an anomaly in your city. Now, as for your third element, special privileges, this grant does not grant any particular privilege to this owner that others don't enjoy. And here's really how to rationalize that. So for almost all, or I would argue all your waterfront parcels in your city, they have a 100-foot setback between the house and the water. And almost uniformly, you see an application that cancels out the standard 20-foot. So you don't get the 20, you take away the 20, and you put the 100. But if you don't grant the relief today, Mr. Daher's parcel will have the 100-foot plus the 20, not 100-foot less the 20 like everyone else. So it's actually bringing him more in parity with other property owners. And again, that really goes to your fourth element as well, that literal interpretation of your code, as it applies here, creates a situation that is really detrimental to the property's usefulness, the rights of the property owner, in a way that I don't think your code was intending, because again, it's built for a more general application to what most lots would look like. And then again, on your fifth element, we're asking for 3 feet. We think there's even a fair argument to say, really, we should have 7.5 on the eastern boundary, like a normal side setback. But there's no need to ask for that. We're not asking for that. So we're trying to constrain the request to the smallest amount possible so that Mr. Daher and his wife can continue building their home. And we believe that effectively, with regard to your last element, this will be harmonious to the way that other houses, particularly the one across the street, was built, and the way that other waterfront parcels are situated. Because I think fairly consistent, if not exclusively consistent across your city, the rear yards of the house face the water. I mean, that's where people grill out and entertain families. And they don't do that between their house and the neighbor's side, typically. They face the water. And that's exactly how this property is intended to be used. So I'd like to ask the LPA to entertain, like I said, a brief presentation from Charles Gauthier. He has 48 years of experience in land use planning. He's worked for Lee County, Collier County. He's worked for the former Florida Department of Community Affairs, which many of you know has been rebirthed into the Department of Economic Opportunity, and then has gone through many changes since then. But he brings, like I said, quite a wealth of background and information, and I think that he could provide some additional information about how this particular lot fits in. And then if that's okay, Mayor, I'd like to come in and sum up after he's completed, if that's acceptable. All right, thank you.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
Evening. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members. It's an honor to appear here. This is local government at its most local level. I love it. My name's Charles Gautier. I'm a planner, 1780 Copperfield Circle in Tallahassee, Florida, 32312. Mr. Goodwin asked me to come here and sort of initially assess the variance request and then say what I thought. My ultimate conclusion is this is a very difficult lot, a very unique situation. In my opinion, variances are made for this kind of situation. But first, gosh, I did have slides. I don't see them. You do?
Sharing is turned off for me, so I can't do anything.
No, we understand, Dylan.
Well,
I can switch it, Dylan. I don't have those slides, but I'll switch it. Just one second.
And if I may approach, I do have hard copies for everyone.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Thank you.
The slides don't work. We got a visual anyway. Yeah. Jared, are we giving up on the slides? Oh, there it is. Son of a gun.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
just let me know when you want me to go to the next one.
I shall. First, let me highlight the subject parcel. It's immediately to the right of Misty Water Lane with the boat ramp at the end. It runs north to south down to the Sound. As you can see, it's a sort of a rectangular long lot going north and south. To its east is a flag lot, which draws access from Misty Waters and then abuts the property. And I think it's also important to look at the house on the west side of Misty Waters as far as the orientation of it. One of the unique aspects is this isn't part of a formal subdivision. I think you would call it a remnant of a historic subdivision. So this parcel is defined by a meets and bounds definition. That's important because a formal subdivision would sort of lay out in greater detail lot development. In this case, we're not dealing with that level of definition. Typically, zoning regulations are keyed to the street you're fronting on, Misty Waters Lane. That becomes the front yard.
Yeah.
The rear yard is the opposite. In this case, the context is very different because the true or the natural backyard is toward the water. That's sort of furthered by the narrow dimension of the east-west portion of the lot and the longer north-south. So in this case, the natural backyard is really toward the Sound. And if I could have the next slide, please. There we go. Just a different view. And what I want to highlight here, you see the subject property in the middle, and also there's a wetland there, which I'll talk about in a moment. The property, the lovely house to the right, flag lot. You'll notice it's very close to the side to the property line. It's clearly oriented with the north being the front, the south being the rear yard. And you see the same thing across Misty Waters Lane. That particular house is pushed pretty close up to its side yard. You would think that would be the rear yard, but it's really a side yard. The yard is the sound. So what I'm highlighting here is it is a very unusual lot in its orientation and not a sort of a cookie cutter application of setbacks isn't appropriate. And my third slide, and I'm trying to move along fast for you all, please. The third slide, get to it, will show you wetlands. There are wetlands on the property down toward the sound. This forces development to the north. So it's very constrained site. The actual site where the house is to be constructed does involve minimal wetland impacts, and that has been permitted. But as much as possible, it's pushed on the uplands at the top of the site. So then I'll just sort of conclude, not wanting to be redundant, that the variance request is really minimal. It's a side, it's requesting a rear yard setback, but it's really more naturally a side yard. It's less than a 3-foot reduction. Typically, a side yard would have a 7.5-foot setback. Well, in this case, it would have a 17-foot setback. So it's really, there's a lack of clarity, I would say, as far as front, rear, and side. And in this case, we're coming forward, presuming the rear lot, the rear yard is to the east, and simply requesting a 3-foot variance. So as I've looked at it, unique characteristics, I certainly agree with the staff report and its conclusion. The setback is minimal. I see no public harm. In fact, the neighbor to the east would receive far greater than a 7.5-foot setback you would think from a side yard. And once again, land development codes aren't really written for the exception. This is an exceptional situation, and that's why codes include devices like variances, which have to be very carefully administered and, in my opinion, appropriate in this situation.
Thank you. You want to do a final review? If you want,
Yes, thank
that's
you.
what you asked?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. And
All right.
it certainly, it will be available after that for questions
Sure,
as
we're
well.
going to ask questions to
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
and Mr.
And-
Gauthier is,
Okay, all right,
is available to answer
just
them as
get
well if
clarity.
anybody has
Okay, thank you.
questions. So just to recap and really, and really drive this back to a landing spot, keep in mind, this city has adopted through its comprehensive plan, by policy has decided this piece of property should be developed as single-family residential. It's low-density residential. Primary use for that is detached, single-family, a house. That's exactly what the property owner wants to do with this property, simply build a house on it. So in that regard, letting the project go forward furthers a policy that this city has already adopted. I'd also like to point out that in your comprehensive plan, keep in mind that, that you have adopted a goal to avoid proliferation of urban sprawl. And one of your policies, A1-7C, specifically talks about to implement that goal and implement that objective, that infill development should be encouraged by the city. And here you really have infill development, because what is infill development? I mean, it's really nothing more than building structures on vacant lands that exist in already urbanized area. And this is an urbanized area where this particular lot sits. So it really pushes, it promotes the policy goals of the city to move forward. And I just wanted to use some numbers to kind of recap why, if you don't grant this, this particular property is really treated in a punitive way, unintentionally, but an unbending application of the rule without a variance. and how that would apply really puts this property at a disadvantage. So when you look at the code in other waterfront lots, they are subject to a front setback of 25 feet. They're subjected to a side setback of 7.5, another side setback of 7.5, and a water setback of 100, cumulative 140 feet. But this lot, if there's no relief granted, you have a front setback of 25, only one side setback of 7.5, a rear setback of 20, and a water setback of 100 feet. So cumulatively 152.5 feet. So in other words, whereas every other waterfront parcel gets to offset their 20-foot rear setback when they have to accept the 100 because they're on the water, in this case, without the variance, instead of offsetting with the 20 is still being applied against the property, further squeezing an already very constrained parcel. And so that's really the crux of the request, and certainly here to answer any questions
Okay,
that you
let's
have.
get started. April, I think you had a first question? Go ahead.
So one of the whole points of having R1 is to have minimal density in a neighborhood, to have quiet, spacious neighborhoods. My biggest issue with this is it does create a special circumstance because we're here because of a special circumstance to grant a variance. This is after the fact. Whereas this should have been approached prior. 3 feet is a very large amount in the construction world. That's more, I'm gonna say intentional almost. Now granted, I do not agree that a 20-foot setback is even reasonable, and that's a whole nother issue with our codes. But, yeah, I think this could have been handled differently. The applicant is a known developer in this county and knows all of the ins and outs. So, yeah, this should have been addressed and handled prior to an April 24th application.
You had a question?
No.
Okay.
I'm not gonna
Sorry,
get
I
an
thought-
answer.
It's okay.
No.
Anybody else have a question? You do? Richard, okay.
If the code says 20 foot and we do 17 foot for you, don't we basically, from now on, if anybody else, we have to do the same for them?
Case by case.
We do this case by
Case
case.
by case. This is, they explained it nauseating detail of all the events that are around this property to make it a unique thing. And if we have another property, it's going to be totally different than this and it'll be discussed.
Well, I think all waterfront properties are unique. We've discussed that before, so
Yeah,
we're just
they're all
on that
a little
situation, that's all.
quirky, and where's the front and where's the back, you know?
Right.
We had that problem with the last variance where the guy put a garage or a place for his lawnmower between the house and the road, and that was illegal. They said you had to put it down by the water according to our property, which made no sense, so they changed it. You have a question? Or you want to speak?
More of an observation.
Okay.
I have to piggyback a little bit off of Councilman Sutton. Just curious how we got here, you know? I follow your logic. It all, that makes, you know, there's very little I would ever have it to inquire because you made it very plain. But I just kind of trying to match the expertise of the owner with how we got here. If you could speak to that, I would, not that it'll change a whole lot. I'm just curious how we got here.
If you would like Mr. Daugherty to speak to it directly, you can, or I can answer.
Well,
Mr.
his
Daugherty.
choice. Okay.
Effectively, this came up during construction, and I understand why normally that would be a place to stop. Now, as staff pointed out, what happened is a foundation survey indicated that we were 17 feet off of the east boundary instead of 20. Unlike a normal construction project, because this house has to be on pilings, it sits on 65 concrete pilings that have been driven 25 feet in the ground. So it's not just a matter of changing your formwork and sliding over. It's a major undertaking, not just for the landowner, but also considering putting the neighborhood through 65 rounds of pile driving again is a big concern. And so that's why we're approaching it this way. But what I think is important here to remember, the 3-foot, the 17-foot versus 20 feet error, if you will, which Mr. Daher did not know about until the foundation survey. Okay. And that's when things stopped, once it was found and he was able to talk with Mr. Reed and Mr. Cherry, and everybody said, hey, put the brakes on. We have to figure this out before we can move forward. And just so it's clear, there's been no construction since then. It's been sitting waiting for resolution. But what that did was it really highlighted an inquiry into the whole situation. And I will candidly tell you, I was not involved in the development order process. I wasn't involved in any of that. I only came in after staff flagged this as a foundation survey concern and asked for a stop work, which was honored. So I came in to help evaluate that. And at that point, that's when the questions about, well, why is this being treated as a rear yard anyway? And that's when we looked at it and said, well, we can't find under your code anywhere that says that has to be a rear yard. And functionally, when I look at the house, regardless of what whether or not the site plan calls it rear, there's nobody going to recreate on that side. It's between him and the neighbor. And so that's really how we got here.
Mayor, I have,
Thank you.
Let him finish. You done?
Yeah, I said,
yeah, Mayor, I have a question on that. So when the site plan was submitted, it was submitted within the boundaries. So when they go to survey the land, where was the disconnect? Because clearly there is a disconnect when you go. So who was the surveyor to set those foundation piers?
Well, I can tell you who the surveyor for the project was, is Panhandle Associates.
The
Now,
one from 2017?
yes, probably so.
Well, that-
Are you looking at the biome survey?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure if biome had a separate,
Because this might be the issue.
it could be, it might be. But I don't remember who did the work for biome. It's probably on their stamp. But I do know that the property owner used the services of Panhandle Associates. I don't know if that answers your question.
I mean, 3 feet when you're setting boundaries is a pretty good distance. My background is in home building and development, so I understand, and I understand that it's a lot to do that many pile drives. That's a lot of foundation piers. It is a lot. And like I said, I don't necessarily agree with a 20-foot setback in that area, but I do agree with, following the guidelines. And I guess I'm just a little disappointed that we're at a variance versus, instead of asking for permission, we're asking for forgiveness now. And it does kind of set a precedence for others with unique lots or, circumstances like, oh, I'll just go ahead and build it and then come ask.
Well, I think that the applicant understands that concern and doesn't disregard that as a valid concern. The answer to that, I think, lies in, one, the intent here was not to grab 3 more feet. That wasn't allowed. Really, the applicant, and just so that the council or the land planning agency knows in full disclosure, the applicant really evaluated this as initially coming at this from an amended development order perspective and submitting an amended development order with an amended site plan that would call that a side yard, meaning that at 17 feet, we were well within the 7.5 restriction. But that's a couple challenges. One, we kind of worked through staff and we kind of talked about the variance process and getting before council and using the variance process to do that. I think either process would get us to the same place. It could get us to the same place depending on how the board votes. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's any evidence of an intent to bait and switch by any means. Was there a mistake in the field? Absolutely. Was it the surveyor? Was it the pile driver? I haven't been able to find out, but I've seen a lot of finger pointing. But what I do know is nothing has indicated to me that it was Mr. Daher or his wife that knew about it. And keep in mind, the pile driver, if we'd been operating under as a side yard like we thought it was, and it was supposed to be 7.5 feet, and he got it at 4.5 feet, somebody would have thrown their hands up and been like, "You're 4 feet away from the boundary. What are you doing?" It would have stopped. But here, the crews on the ground probably do what any of us do, look at it and say, well, it's the side of this gentleman's house. It must be the side of this guy, of this project owner's house. So nobody flagged it until we've got 65 piles in the ground. And that's how we got here. Is it ideal? Absolutely not. Is it how we want to be here? Absolutely not. Would it have been much better to supply a development order in the first instance that labeled that as a side yard and make that argument at the development order stage? Absolutely. So everything I think that you've raised as a concern is valid, but I don't think this has a high probability of repetitiveness because of the particular circumstance. And clearly, I think even the applicant would agree, if he had known he was violating the 20-foot, he wouldn't have any good faith to be here today. But that's just simply not the case.
One last question. This anomaly, so to speak, what has it done to the cost of building this property?
I will have to defer to the owner on that one.
So you're talking about 65 pylons and you got to change. How has that changed the cost of this?
If they have to be moved,
To move them.
to pull them and move them.
To move them 2.5, 3 feet. Okay.
And just for a point of order, if anybody does want to speak, you'll just have to come up to the podium.
So
Okay. All right.
I'll say that the owner has informed me that it's roughly $500,000
Okay.
to remove the piles and go through the process of resetting them.
Got your number.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Oder, you have anything? You're awfully quiet. Coxwell, you have anything?
No, just really on this property, we're just trying to delineate what is exactly a front, side, back, side, just like I
Yeah.
said,
It's different.
as a waterfront uniqueness, that's what we just have to figure out. And
Okay.
if you're looking at the property appraiser site, a lot of the houses are set differently than they are, say, across, the north side of 98. They are set to one side or the other, centered top and bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay, so we have it. Anything else for the people involved before I open it for the public have their comment?
Nothing further from the applicant. but
Okay.
We're here to answer
Okay,
questions.
anything else for the
Thank you.
council through the applicant? Okay, all right, thank you very much for coming. Anybody wish from the public to give any issues they wish to talk to? Mr. Mall? And you have 3 or 4 minutes, so let's not. In fact, I've got my sand, so you better watch it.
Were you sworn in? Were you sworn in earlier?
yes, he was.
Yeah, he was sworn
was.
in.
Thank you.
My name is John Mull, and I live at 18 Misty Water Lane. This photo that they sent out would have been nice if they put it this way instead of this way, because my house is directly north of this location. And contrary to what this gentleman said, this isn't bothering anybody. This is blocking 3 feet of my view of the water between the houses. The whole house is going to be blocking my view, but there's nothing I can do about that. He's building a house. But by extending it 3 more feet, somebody had the percentage, 30% of my view is going to be infringed upon. I dread the thought of having to have this man as my next door neighbor after I come in here and tell him the way I feel about this. But it's something I have to do.
Understand.
The man's not stupid. This, his architecture work showed how many feet he had behind his house. And they measured this thing. I watched this whole thing get put in. I listened to the banging for probably 3 weeks. They measured this. They walked his property. The fence along the wall dividing the house on the immediate east of him has a 8-foot fence going along there. And there's no way in hell you could not know that you were encroaching on a 20-foot setback with that fence sitting there. I could see it when they were when they were marking it off with 2x4s before they even started pounding. Money is not to be considered in your decision. How much it's going to cost is irrelevant. It's a violation. It's a blatant violation. As far as houses facing the water, he couldn't have reorientated as this attorney was trying to explain, because city ordinance says that the front of your house faces the street. So there's no getting away from it. He can't say, well, front of my house is facing the water, so I can have only 7 feet on that side. Don't work that way. There were many, many other things I could have picked out from all this statements being made, but it's in violation. I hate to have to say it, but it's depriving me of the view of the water. Not only that, this house is going to be, I believe, 48 or 50 feet tall. I've got a widow walk on the roof of my house so I could see over the trees when it was brush out there, and I won't see anything now but a white wall. They're not counting the elevation of this house until you get to the top of the pilings, which are probably, I'm going to say 15 feet high, and then they start counting the height of the house, which is restricted at 38 feet in Mary Esther. They don't take any consideration if it's wetlands. It's from grade level. So there's a lot of other things like this brick wall he's going to have right along his property line all the way down to the water. You can't have a fence any closer to the street than your front setback. So we're looking at a lot of more meetings over this
Okay.
property.
Thank you.
But it will be a beautiful house,
Yes,
to say that.
thank you.
Which
Anybody else wish to speak? Okay.
Question. Sir, could you help?
Just
Could you help me visualize the 30% view that he's going to he's going to lose looking into the Gulf? I'm trying to visualize how we got 30%, and he says his view of the sound is going to be blocked by 30%. Can you articulate that so I can, understand that perspective?
So I think and I don't know if we can pull the aerial back up that shows, but I think we've got a situation where you've got, Mr. Moll's lot is north of the subject property. And you've got, of course, the driveway from the flag lot that directly abuts. Yes, so you can see the flag lot driveway, and then you can see a driveway from the house that is, I believe, to the east of Mr. Moll. And I think Mr. Moll's house is the one that's right there due north of this property. So I
Yeah.
think historically, it looks like he's built a little, you can kind of see the square there where he's built something on his roof. And probably historically, when this is vacant, you can get up there and see to the sound. But a couple important things to remember. Nothing in your code protects view corridors across private property. So whether or not the house blocks it or whether or not a row of cedar trees blocks it is irrelevant from a view corridor perspective. I understand the practical concern, but I don't think it's something that your code has adopted as a protected property interest or a factor in a variance.
You got it?
One last, can you address the height issue?
Yes, so the height is directly impacted because of the special flood hazard area. This house has got to be elevated above, I think this is an 11-foot flood hazard area, and it may even have a partial VE zone on it, honestly, meaning it might have wave action attenuation. The bottom floor is unusable, like from the ground to the base of the living area is unusable. It's blowout walls, all that sort of thing. So the reason it's elevated is purely because of the flood maps that the city's adopted, which help mitigate your flood insurance rates, of
Yeah,
course.
well, let me rephrase the question. The other speaker talked about this house would exceed the max height requirement. Can you address that?
Yes, sir. To my knowledge, everything I've seen in the development order and the building permit files show that the house meets code. In fact, I think that the development order would have been denied if it had exceeded height.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question on that side with the 17 feet. We're just talking about the pier foundation, but what about the actual structure? Will there be any decking that extends off of that as well?
My recollection of that elevation is no, that's a flat wall that just goes straight up the side of the house. The decking is on the water side.
Okay. And do we anticipate having to come back for any,
The brick wall?
or any other additional variances, meaning for the dock permit?
I don't believe there would be a variance required for the dock. It would simply be one single-family residential appurtenant dock. I think it's 1,000 square feet or less, as long as, meets the DEP code without having to get a submerged land lease. So it would meet you've probably got a 25-foot side setback before a dock can start. I think it's intended to meet that. It's got plenty of width to do that. There will be a jurisdictional wetland walkover, but that's being permitted by DEP. That's pretty common along Santa Rosa Sound. So it would be built just like you see other single-family docks, not any unique situation that I'm aware of.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm curious
Right.
about the wall fence. I mean, where would that cut off? Obviously, you don't want infringing on the wetland flow down towards the bottom.
And I'm not sure if a fence is part of the current development order or not, to my knowledge. I don't remember seeing it on the site plan. And Mr. Daher may be able to correct me if I'm wrong on that, or,
Well, I'm just thinking parking for the launch and all that. If there's a wall, then
Oh.
it definitely affects them.
certainly there will be no construction other than
City property.
the driveway connection only that would cross into city property. That's it. There will be no construction on municipal lands.
The rest of it's on my property. There's a wall on the left. And
You got to talk into it.
Yeah, but here you can tell.
Steve Daher, 4507 Boca Drive, Niceville, Florida, 32578. I'm the owner of the property on 22 Misty Water Lane. For your question is, we have a fence on the north and we'll have a fence on the west. Not on the water side at this
Okay.
time.
But I mean, on the Misty Water side going down to the water,
It'll be going down all the way to the water.
the fence?
Correct.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
On my
Oh, yeah,
property.
I know, just saying, yeah.
Not on the city property, on my property.
Right. Yeah, because on the other side, they also have a wall and then it
Correct.
ends at probably about, 15 feet from the water line or something like that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see it in the picture.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just clarifying, not everybody
Okay, it's
in the
been
ethernet is
clarified.
looking at the picture.
I didn't know you were clarified. I thought we had a question, but okay.
And there will be also a fence between, also on the left side, if you're on the street, which is the north side.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else
No.
for anybody?
No.
Okay, in that case, do I have a motion to recommend approval of the after-the-fact dimensional variance authorizing a rear yard setback of approximately 17 feet in lieu of the required 20 feet setback along the eastern line of the property at 22 Misty Water Lane. Do I have a first?
I'll be first.
Okay, Mr. Oders, the first.
I'll
Right.
second.
Have a second. Ms. Coxwell's number two. Let's go ahead and vote.
Where are we at?
Can you do the voting there?
Mr. Lawson also is not joined on the board portal, so I need a vocal vote from him.
You have to verbally vote or have him vote.
Okay, that's fine.
I thought it's not coming
All
up.
right, how do you vote? Yes or no?
Yes or no?
Yes or no? That's a start. Okay, you got what we need from you.
half of
Now
that.
you have to pick one of the two.
I vote yes.
Okay, we got a yes vote there, Mr. Dillon. Everybody else is also except one. Okay, in that case, the motion carries, and we're gonna move this to the council meeting, which is 45 minutes late. Okay, we're gonna move that to the council meeting. Anything else? Yes.
Your motion was.
The variance is for,
Point of order, please come to the microphone, state your name, address.
go up there and tell me what you just said and give me your name and address.
George McNally, 3 Misty Water Lane. Your motion for the vote was whether to approve a setback for the eastern side, but on the written motion there, it said the rear setback. And since there's some confusion maybe about which is the rear and which is the sides and which is the front, you might want to
It's
use the same terms. I'd suggest east.
the eastern line of the property at 22 Misty Water. That was the motion.
When that vote popped up, it didn't say eastern, it said rear setback.
When the legal description, that is the rear.
So yeah, so for the chair and the rest of the LPA, so the actual development order, the rear is on the east side, and so that's why it's shown that way.
Okay? All right. Anything else? Okay, the LPA is adjourned. Should I adjourn the